I was sitting around with some friends of mine and we were talking about how to find the volume of a cylinder with a hemisphere stuck to the bottom. And no, that didn't happen, but we're going to talk about that right now. So this container is a cylinder on top of a hemisphere, and it holds 500 cubic centimeters. So the volume of this deal is 500 cubic centimeters. What is the radius of the container to the nearest hundredth of a centimeter? So we need to find out what's the radius. Well, you're going to need to remember some things from geometry. Here's one thing. The volume of a cylinder is pi r squared, which is the area of this circle, times h. So the area of the base times the height is volume of a cylinder. And volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. But that's for a whole sphere. We don't have a whole sphere, we only have half of a sphere. So a hemisphere is half of a sphere. So let's see, how would we find half of that? Well, we would multiply this by a half. 4/3 pi r cubed times 1/2 is, that's going to be 4/6, which reduces to 2/3 pi r cubed. So the volume of a hemisphere is 2/3 pi r cubed. So to get the volume of this whole thing, we need to do the volume of the cylinder plus the volume of the hemisphere, and that will equal the volume of the cylinder with the hemisphere stuck to the bottom. So the volume of the cylinder is pi r squared times h, which is the height, and the height we have, that's 10. So times 10, that's the volume of the cylinder, plus the volume of the hemisphere, which is 2/3 pi r cubed, equals the volume of the whole thing, which they told us is 500 cubic centimeters. Now remember, whenever we're trying to solve a polynomial function, we're going to need to get zeros. So we're going to have to make this equal 0. So we're going to do minus 500 from both sides. And then, so that's going to equal 0. And then I'm going to write this in what we'd like to call standard form. So r to the third is the highest power of our variable. So 2/3 pi r cubed plus 10 times pi is 10 pi r squared minus 500 equals 0. So what we want to do is we want to use a graphing calculator to graph this wacky polynomial function right here and find its zeros. So we know what radius will give us a 0 for this, which will give us a 500 volume. Alright, let's go to the calculator. Alright, so f of x equals 2/3 pi, which is 2 pi over 3 times x cubed plus 10 pi x, and you just type pi to get pi in here, x squared minus 500. And now we want to look at the zeros. Where are my zeros? Right here, when x is negative 13, which in our case would mean the radius would be negative 13.7, but it doesn't make sense to have a negative radius for a circle. This one would also be a negative radius, which doesn't make sense. And this one is 3.584, which does make sense for a radius. So our calculator got us a radius of 3.584 centimeters. The question is asking us for the nearest hundredth of a centimeter. So that's 2 decimal places. 4 tells me to stay, so I'm going to stay at 3.58. So our radius is 3.58 centimeters. Ding! Thank you for playing. Talk to you later.